time for On the Farm in Alabama, bringing farmers and agribusiness the latest news from Alabama Extension and the Auburn University College of Agriculture. Now here's your host, Alabama Extension Regional Agent, Eddie McGriff.
Good day. I'd like to welcome everybody today to On the Farm in Alabama, and today is my special guest. I have Dr. Eros Francisco. He is Auburn's Alabama Extension's new corn, soybean, and wheat specialist, small grain. So, Eros, I'd like to welcome you today to On the Farm in Alabama.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for having me.
Today we're going to be talking about soybeans and how they're grouped and how soybeans fall into this unique group that is photoperiod sensitive. Eros, tell us a little bit about how soybeans are grouped.
Well, soybeans are grouped from 0 to 9 maturity groups. They range according to the latitude. So 0 is north of Canada and 9 would be south of Florida.
When you look at soybeans, of course, they're influenced somewhat by heat units, but mostly they're influenced by light. In other words, the amount of daylight.
Yes, they are. In fact, soybeans are short day type of plants. Most of varieties, they need 13.5 hours per day to start blooming or less. So each variety will be adapted to a region regarding the latitude according to the amount of daylight.
Well, here in North Alabama, we plant groups 4s and 5s, and 4s are indeterminate. When we get into the 5s, we started getting into the determinate varieties. Tell us the difference between an indeterminate and a determinate variety.
Yes, determinate varieties are the type of plants that stop growing after they start blooming, while the indeterminate varieties, the plant is continue to grow while it's still blooming. So a determinate variety will start blooming on the top of the plant, while indeterminate varieties will start blooming on the bottom of the plant and then move up.
Well, one thing, these indeterminate varieties, since they continue to produce leaves after they start blooming, they give us more yield potential. So that's one advantage to them. When you think about daylight and night, we have a field that's not far from my house, and you'll see it in this video, that it has street lights along the field. So the plants got continuous light, and they never did go into reproductive stage. They continue to grow vegetatively, and this is a problem because you need so much darkness to trigger fruiting.
That's right. Indeterminate varieties, they can yield more or higher than determinate varieties, and they have less risk associated to the production. But you are correct. In fact, if you continue the daylight over after sunset with an artificial source of light, the plant understands that there is still sun or sunlight. So it will never bloom unless you cut the daylight down to 13.5 hours per day or less.
One of the interesting things in this video that you'll see is that there was a pole there and it blocked the light, and those plants where the light was blocked right in the middle, they matured normally because they didn't get the sunlight. Another thing that we need to think about is that due to the tilt of the earth, that the farther north we get, the more sunlight per day that they get during soybean growing season.
That's right. In the very north of the North America continent, they could get like 16 hours of daylight per day. So the more light you give to the plant, the more it will grow and accumulate photosynthetically carbohydrates, and will transfer that energy into the seeds and pods, so the yields are maybe bigger.
Well, that's one reason that in to the north of us, especially when you get into the Illinois, Indiana, up into North and South Dakota, they have a huge advantage with more sunlight because they have more opportunity to pack those carbohydrates into the plant, and that means more beans.
That's right. And we have data showing, research data showing that if you keep adding light or giving light to the plant after it blooms, it will increase yield and the reproductive stage as well.
Well, here in North Alabama, we do have early planted beans. The disadvantage for the early planted beans, even though they have tremendous more yield potential, and we saw it this year, is those beans are more subject to degradation of the bean quality at harvest, because when you have warm weather, humidity, and you have the beans maturing, they're more susceptible, if we have rain, to low test weight and also to damage.
Some varieties may be tolerant to rain during harvest time, but most of the varieties, they need to be picked or harvested when they reach full maturity. So do not delay harvesting, because you're going to jeopardize your yield or the grain quality.
Well, here in North Alabama, any beans this year that were planted before the middle of May, especially if they were planted in early May or April, they had a lot of damage to them. Very low test weights into the 40s. They were getting docks at the buying point. So even though we had a tremendous yield potential with these early planted beans, there are risks that farmers need to be concerned about.
And I heard cases of elevators not taking in grains, soybean grains, because they were too damaged.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. We had some damage as high as 70%, but we had a lot of soybeans that were in the 20 to 40% damage range, and those may not have been taken at the elevators, but they were being able to being taken for crush. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to On the Farm in Alabama, and I want to thank Eros for being with us today, and tune in to our next episode.